Record companies, booking agencies saw this area as fertile territory. The time is now approaching 8:30, which would normally be our sign-off time, but tonight something all of us have looked forward to for over 2 years. We will not sign off. We will continue for 24 hours. From now on, every day, we will pause for a brief ceremony to commemorate this occasion. I'll be back for the second half of the Golf Artist Show. But here for WFSO is the general manager of the station, Dan Johnson.
Thank you, Ted. And this is some occasion, isn't it? Huh? We've got about 5 minutes to go. I feel like it must be New Year's Eve someplace, and we're ready now to hit the New Year's for the whole year, for the whole world. Charlie, got a little trouble with the cable here. Let's hope it's in the audio, not in the other end. Everything's okay. Very good. Well, we have the antenna system ready to go, and in fact, our engineering staff has had it ready now for about 2 weeks. And completed a full report for the FCC, and they authorized program tests late on Thursday. So we took this opportunity to do it on a Saturday night and asked everybody to come on over. We went on the air here at WFSO on March 12th of 1966, and from the very beginning we wanted to be full-time, not part-time. And we took a lot of ribbing about running down at sundown and all the rest of the things that went on. But after a number of years, we fully realized that the rules that existed at the time for the FCC did not permit full-time operation for our station. There was a little thing called the 25% white area rule, and it simply meant that 25% of the people you would be able to cover at night would not have to have any other local coverage. Well, in this market, practically everybody has coverage of some kind from some local station. And in fact, the white areas exist probably only in Utah and Wyoming and a couple of other places like that. But then in 1975, the commission suddenly changed the rules. Not that we hadn't talked to a lot of people in the meantime, and commissioners themselves, and not that other people hadn't been talking to them, hoping to do something for AM stations. Well, eventually, they saw that there was something needed to be done, and they relaxed that 25% white area rule if you were the first or second oral service in your city of license. Well, since we are the only oral service to the city of Pinellas Park, we immediately applied for full-time operation. But the engineering and all the rest of the things that it takes to get an application together, being what they are, took about 6 months. And February 1st of 1976, we dumped in an application on the commission and said, here it is, we'd like to go full-time. And we were thinking 90 days, maybe 120, maybe even 6 months. We'd have a permit to build it and get it all done, and well, we'd be on the air by that fall. Well, they didn't even accept the application for filing, which is the first step to saying, well, we think you might be right, but we want to take some time to investigate it. They waited till 77 to even accept it. And then our friends at the last day, our friends in Dallas, Texas, and WFAA decided that they would file a little objection to our having the station on the air full-time. We might cause them interference in some town about 95 miles southwest of Dallas. Well, it was an infinitesimal amount, and it was a theoretical thing, and they spent about $15,000 trying to keep us off, and what it did was delay it about 6 months. We responded immediately, made a slight change in our pattern just to avoid any possible interference. But in spite of that, it took the commission almost 6 months more to work on our application. So they've done it. In the 16th of January, I believe it was, they granted a construction permit, and we moved as fast as we could to get it all built. I have to thank Jim Johnson, the consulting engineer who actually put it together and made it work, and his close associate, Jim Carey. But our own engineering staff deserves a lot of credit. Bob Fisher and George Topolancic, a couple of guys who worked hard and really deserve some credit. Now, I know that everybody's ready. We've got about 1 minute to go, and right behind me is a magic button which I'm supposed to push in 1 minute, which will simply change the antenna system around. At this time, we're operating on 2 towers, dividing the power between the 2, and operating with what looks like about a 3-leaf clover. 1 big leaf to the north, 1 east, and 1 west. The 1 west does a lot for the fishermen and the fish, and the one to the east does a good deal for the folks in Tampa. Now, at night, we're going to have 3 towers operating, the 2 in the daytime plus a 3rd one. And it'll be simply the 3-leaf clover with a northern leaf kind of cut off about halfway down. So in other words, some of the folks in Newport Richey are going to wonder where we went. But some of the folks over around University of South Florida are going to say, hey, where'd they come from? Isn't that nice? Well, it's all to our credit in that direction, but some other folks are going to have problems. So tonight we'd like to hear from our listeners. We'd like to know where they're hearing us and how it's coming in. It's time to do it. Here we go.
All right. We have a couple of clowns on the light switches, of course. But everything worked. I think it's still on the air. And we're doing it. By George, it's 24 hours a day. I don't believe we finally did it. You know, it almost seems like something that you couldn't get done. You say, this isn't really happening today. But it is. My George, 8:30 has come and gone. The sun has set, and we have not run down at sundown. Charlie, hand me that old sign-off cartridge in there, will you? Let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of it. Out the door we go. Let's see if we can manage to burn up the old sign-off cartridge and get rid of it. Art Williams has graciously provided a charcoal fire, and we're going to do our best to burn up our cartridge out here. Well, while that's taking place, we're all done with sign-offs forever, we hope, except for possible maintenance once in a while on a Monday morning in the wee hours when George and Bob will be working at it. In the meantime, let's get back to the great show we've got going with Ted Webb and recalling some of the fine things that were done for us with the folks at Gulf Artists and WFSO in our early days in doing rock starting back in 1969. Back to Ted again.